Welcome to Staring into the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach, and the walls seem like they're closing in around me, and the table feels a little bit wet, and I'm kind of concerned. Matt, can you help me out here?
I am just amazed at this licking doorknob that keeps licking my hand. It's weird, but I don't know, it's a doorknob.
Are you doing okay over there, Vitlame?
The floor seems to be eating my legs. But I'm totally fine with that.
You seem very calm.
Totally fine.
You seem very calm for your legs being eaten right now.
I mean, it's because he's telling me such a ravishing story.
Yeah, it seems kind of cool, and it's letting me get all the way down to the basement. So I don't know, unless I'm some sort of worm person, I can kind of wiggle my way down. It's just chewing on the legs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's see where this goes. Let's follow this down and see what happens. And today we're going to be discussing Root Canticle by Natasha King, which you can find on Nightmare Magazine.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's a night. We're probably going to be a little crazy in our discussion trying to figure it out, but it is surprisingly a short story. Not a flash piece,
story,
but
it's quite dense.
Yes.
And the second person narration threw me off at first, but I do think it is a good example of second person narration.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good second point narration, definitely.
Which I'm envious of anybody who can do that well, because that's fucking hard to pull off.
Right.
Tell me about it.
So hard to pull off.
Yep.
But before we dive into this whole discussion, we'd like to give a media rundown of the stuff we've consumed in the last week or couple weeks. I know it's been a while since Matt's been back on here. So we got a lot to catch up with.
Yes.
But I'll get started. I saw Beau is Afraid.
Excellent.
And that has to be one of the strangest theater experiences of my life.
Was it full? Was there a lot of people there?
There were 8 people, including myself and my friend. By the time the credits rolled, 4 people were left, including myself and my friend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it more crazy than Mother?
Mother's actually a really good comparison to this movie. Yes,
That's a great question.
in different ways.
Okay.
So the idea of Beau is Afraid is, I'll say this. When I left the movie, I didn't like it. I respected its existence, but I didn't like the experience having left it. After thinking about it for a couple days and processing the movie, I actually quite enjoy it. But I needed some time to unpack a lot of the shit that's in this movie. It reminds me of The Lodge. And it's not similar to The Lodge, but if you've seen The Lodge, it's a great movie, but you leave it feeling very just nah.
Yeah.
And then the more you unpack The Lodge, the more it's oh, this movie was fucking great, you know?
Yeah.
So it's you have to work on that understanding it. But Beau is Afraid. It's a good comparison to Mother because they're both batshit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Mother's issue is Darren Aronofsky didn't understand his own metaphor. And you know I'm right.
That's fair.
I mean, he attempts a lot of things, and sometimes he succeeds, and sometimes he doesn't.
Mother is obviously a metaphor about the creative process.
Mm-hmm.
And he made it about the religion and the Garden of Eden, and it didn't work, you know? But if he kept it about the creative process, I think Mother could have been a very successful movie. But he didn't understand the metaphor. And that happens sometimes, that creators misunderstand their own metaphors, or maybe they pick what they think is the most compelling versus what the audience might latch on to being the most compelling.
Yeah.
Or
just go way too over enthusiastic about it, and then just forget about what the true purpose of the movie was.
Yes. So Beau Was Afraid is about a man named Beau, and he's afraid.
Oh. He's afraid. Good,
He's afraid.
good.
So
Title works.
He's this man who's in his middle ages, and he's riddled with anxiety. Like, his anxiety is so bad, he can barely talk a coherent sentence.
Oh no, that sucks.
He spends most of the movie mumbling his way through the movie. Like, that's how bad his anxiety is.
Yeah.
He blames his mother for why his anxiety is the way it is. And like pretty much he never met his father. His mother told him that his father died ejaculating.
Okay.
That deceived him. And his grandfather also died ejaculating. And the curse has passed down to him. So now he's in his 40s, and he's never come, not even once. That's a joke that works its way through the movie. The movie's actually quite funny. There's a good bleak kind of nihilistic sense of humor with the movie. Very dark humor. But this comes into play in the movie. So he's never known the touch of a woman. He's in his middle ages, and he's just an anxious mess. And he is going to visit his mother on the anniversary of his father's death. And his therapist is like, "Are you ready? Are you sure you want to do this?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm ready to do this." And his therapist gives him a new medication that you can only take with water.
Okay.
You have to take it with water. You can't take it without water. It has to be taken with water. So he goes home, and he lives in like what seems to be hell. Like, as soon as he leaves his therapist's office, there's a guy on top of a building, and the whole people below are just egging him on to jump. No one's like, "Hey, let's help this guy." Everyone's like, "Jump, jump, 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 do it, jump, jump." And when he gets home, there's a dead body in the street, and everyone just ignores it.
Oh my God.
Okay.
And everyone, once they see Beau, stops what they're doing, and they fucking chase him. And he has to run to his apartment building, lock the door behind him so no one can get in, and then he's safe in his apartment building, but there's a brown recluse spider on the loose that's warning all the doors. And the next morning, he packs his stuff, and he's going to go home and visit his mom, and he walks inside. He leaves his keys in the lock and his suitcase in the hall, and he goes inside to get his medication, and once he turns around, his suitcase is gone, his keys are gone. So he calls his mom, and he's like, "Hey, Mom, I'm supposed to be on my way, but, like, my suitcase is gone, my keys are gone, I don't know what's going on." And then his mother's just blaming him. Like, she spends the whole call blaming him for not coming to her to visit her on the anniversary of his father's death, blaming him for getting his keys stolen, blaming him for having his luggage stolen, blaming him for not coming. This is his fault that he's not coming, right? Which makes him have a breakdown. And while this is happening, he calls back later, and he finds out his mother died. A chandelier fell.
Spoilers.
No, this is legit the first 10 minutes of the movie. It's a 3-hour movie. A chandelier fell and crushed her head, and now they can't bury the body unless he's home and present because she's Jewish and it's a Jewish funeral. So Beau has to make it home to bury his mother.
Okay.
And the journey follows Beau and his quest to go home.
Crazy.
And it is such a mean movie.
Oh.
It is, the whole time you feel bad for Beau. He's an anxious mess the entire runtime. Everybody and he feels guilty for everything that goes wrong. And he blames himself for everything that goes wrong. And like, you just kind of want to, like, give Beau a hug and be like, "Hey, buddy, I know you're a fucking mess of a person, but like it's gonna be okay." The movie's trying to make you feel like you have anxiety in the sense where like the whole world is conniving against you.
Yeah.
That's all your fault. It's something you did wrong. And like it's definitely Ari Aster trying to explore anxiety and how familial relationships integrate anxiety in the younger generation, and how this problem has gotten so bad that Beau, being a man in his like late 40s, early 50s, can't even take care of himself because he's such an anxious mess due to how he was grown up.
Well, it doesn't sound like a happy movie, but it sounds like a fun one.
I will say there's really good comedy. Like,
Nice.
Ari Aster does a really good job with comedy in this movie. There's still some horror elements. Like one of my favorite bits, and this is still in the first this is before the title card. No, is it before the title card? It might be before the title card. In the first 15 minutes of the movie, Beau turns on TV and there's a news, and the news is like, there is a naked circumcised white male who's running around the city stabbing people, yelling happy birthday, and we're calling him the happy birthday suit stabber.
That's wild.
And that's kind of how Beau is Afraid kind of plays out. It's just it just feels like everything is stacked against Beau. And I think if you struggle with anxiety, because I think all of us struggle with anxiety in some way or another. I can say I have my issues with anxiety. I don't take medication for it because it's not bad enough for me to need medication for it, but sometimes my anxiety does get the better of me, right? It happens to a lot of people. And I think Beau is Afraid is a really good exploration of anxiety and the anxious mind, but you leave that movie feeling terrible.
Oh, great.
Like you leave that movie just feeling bad.
Say, I do take lots of medication, so I'll take double the dose before I see it.
I will say the third act has a moment that is either going to make the movie or break the movie for most people. There's something Ari Aster does. Like, literally, as soon as this happened in the theater, some of my theater went, "Fuck this movie," and got out of this and walked out the door.
Oh, that is amazing.
So, it's out there. After I unpacked it, because I have a really good read on this movie now after unpacking it, but once I left the movie, people describe the last scene of the movie, being a middle finger to the audience, and I wouldn't really disagree on that.
Okay.
Have you seen The House That Jack Built?
Nope.
No.
There's an ending of that movie felt like a big fuck you. Like, you wasted your time watching this movie. Fuck you. You sat through it. Here's how it ends. But I Was Afraid isn't as bad as that, but the ending scene is just that's what you're gonna leave us with?
Jeez.
That's how you're gonna end them. Okay, wow. All right, you're doing it. Okay, cool. That's kind of how Beau feels at the end. It's worth seeing if you have 3 hours to kill.
God, him and his long movies. Jeez.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a long one. It's 3 hours long. It's actually 2 hours and 59 minutes, technically.
Well,
You know.
that I'm fine with.
But who cares about details?
Yeah.
But that being said, it's not a happy movie. It's funny, you'll laugh. There's one scene in the middle where Beau, you've seen it in the trailers, where there's the stop motion animation, cardboard stage stuff.
Yeah.
That happens about halfway through the movie. That scene would be awesome on mushrooms. Just saying.
Good to know.
But that scene, I think, was one of the most poignant scenes of the whole movie. It was parts of the movie were very beautiful. Other parts of the movie were very crass. Other parts of the movie were very funny. And Nathan Lane is hilarious in it. So, Beau is Afraid. I won't spoil much because I think it just needs to be seen. If you guys want spoilers, we can talk after the podcast and I can tell you a couple more things. But man, it's a trip. Besides my 3-hour movie epic, I was able to sneak in Barry, because Barry's back. I don't know if either of you watch Barry.
Nope.
I will say, besides Beau is Afraid, Barry's some of the best depiction of anxiety I've ever seen in a TV show. But Barry's pretty much Bill Hader plays Barry, who's a hitman who wants to be an actor. And season 4, spoiler alert, season 4 finds Barry in jail for his actions. And kind of Barry trying to answer the question if he can become a good person or if his past actions define his entire life.
Nice.
It's hilarious. It's still dark, but it's also very funny. Like, one of my favorites is in season 2, there's a character called NoHo Hank, who's like the funniest character in the show. He's this Chechen gangster who's like the sweetest fucking guy in the world. And the Bolivians are coming in, and they're afraid the Bolivians are going to cut in on the Chechens' territory, so they accidentally start a war with the Bolivians. But then NoHo Hank meets the leader of the Bolivian cartel, Cristobal, and NoHo Hank and Cristobal hit it off very well. And by like season 4, they're lovers, and they're living together, and like they're very gay. And Cristobal goes to like meet these other gangsters to like get them in on his new plan. And the gangsters are like, we're at war with these motherfuckers. How would you get us at a table with them? And he's like, I can get you at a table with them because that table is at the bestest place in the entire world. And the scene cuts, and they're all at Dave & Buster's together.
Nice.
Really funny stuff. Really enjoy it. And besides that, I've been reading a lot this week. I actually just started City of Dreams by Don Winslow, which we were talking about before the podcast started. But it is just a really great continuation of City on Fire. It is a fantastic crime novel. If you want Italian gangsters versus the Irish mob in the 1980s, it's perfect.
That's awesome.
The first book, legit, I read the first book in like a day. I couldn't put it down. And the second book, if we didn't have the podcast right now, I'd be the second book right now. I also read the first bit of Small Tales from Between Worlds by Jiang.
So good, isn't it?
And I'm loving what I've read so far.
Yeah.
I need to get back into that. And I also have her, I think it's a novella, but Ling Hun.
Yep.
I grabbed that because I've been liking Small Tales.
Yes.
And honestly, that's been kind of it for me. I'm still listening to the new Victor LaValle audiobook.
Nice.
Which is a great historical horror western.
It's Lone Women, right?
Lone Woman, yes.
I need to check that one out.
He doesn't narrate this one. I was a bit sad because he narrates The Changeling and it's amazing. But this audiobook is great, and I'm intrigued to see where Lone Woman's gonna go. But Matt, what about you?
Yeah. First, I'll just that Small Tales. It's awesome. I like what. I wish I could remember the publisher off the top of my head. Tales from Between, I think.
Tales from Between, yeah.
Yeah, so I really like what they're doing because it's like a couple of her short stories, and then there's like a small interview, then it goes to more short stories, then interview. So it's if you haven't picked it up, I mean, she's super awesome. She is just skyrocketing. It's crazy to like. It's awesome to see, I should say, not crazy to see. It's awesome to see her like blow up the way she has. So yeah, definitely check that out. And I do have the novella sitting on my big stack of books because I'm really excited to read that. But anyway, so real quick, let's see. I went to Ghoulish last weekend, Ghoulish Bookfest in San Antonio. This was the second one for listeners. And I can't talk highly I can't say enough about how great of a fest that Max and Lori put together. It's, we are getting no advertisement from this. This is just me saying this is super awesome. It was a huge, just great turnout. So many great writers and like bizarre writers and any type of writer you're looking for, they're there. I mean, specifically horror, but like, you know what I'm saying. The panels went from everything from like, sort of serious kind of like guest of honor things and discussions to crazy stuff of like horror and video games and what horror writers can beat up what other horror writers. And so it's just this wild thing, and the way they set it up is you just won't miss a panel. Rich and I were talking before the show. I've really only gone to Stoker cons before, and wow, that's a very awesome con to kind of like go to and meet a lot of people. And they have a lot of great panels. They're always kind of running parallel, so you're gonna miss something when you go to that. But the way Max and Lori set Ghoulish up is you won't miss anything. It's just panel, then reading, then panel, then reading, and there's like enough time, and the space is small enough where you're gonna make it to all of them if you want to go. But also they have a really great little bookstore set up in the basement of this place, and I think it's going to be there every year, so you kind of get an idea of how the setup is going to be. But that's just where everyone's hanging out, and so you can just go down and talk to whoever you want.
I have a panel idea for next Ghoulish Book Festival.
Excellent. You should send it to them.
I've already said, Max and I talked about it. It's
excellent. Yeah, that's really funny. It's perfect. But it's a very cool convention. If you weren't, or fest, if you were on the fence last year and this year, I would highly recommend going to it next year. It's just this really cool laid back thing, and I had a blast the whole time I was there. Reading wise, real quick, I'll just kind of burn through some stuff. I finally read The Croning from Laird Barron. I had never read that one before, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the way he set it up. I didn't realize it was going to be sort of a Rumpelstiltskin kind of story, except it starts out that way. So you're like, all right, well, now I know what I'm going for. And so I really dug that idea of taking that story and just making it something Laird Barron style. And I know we've talked about it, and Rich, I know you've brought it up many a time regarding his Children of Old Leech, and so it was kind of cool to actually get a more in-depth story about them.
Yeah.
And so that was fun to kind of see, because I've read the collection, so I know you kind of get tangential stuff about that, but to kind of actually get an in-depth look, at least from my point of view, for reading just The Croning. I don't know if it's into anything else. It was really cool to see that, and I really liked the idea. I can't remember what story we had covered a while back regarding that little tourist guide, but that sort of makes a Easter egg appearance in this, and I thought that was neat. So great, awesome, fun book. I'm glad I finally joined the bandwagon and read that one. Let's see. Christopher Hawkins, Suburban Monsters short story collection. Actually got to meet him not at Ghoulish, but at a Chicago Comic-Con. And this is a great collection of short stories. I feel like it was recently published, at least as of this year, 2023, if you're listening way in the future. And he captured some of these things that I love, and some of the stories that I know I've kind of played around with, where this last story I kind of read is all about this weird children's show, but it kind of stepped back into this mother and daughter and their trials and tribulations of a mother kind of getting over this husband leaving or boyfriend leaving, and she starts getting addicted to drugs, and this daughter is obsessed with this weird kids show, and just this descent and this look at this weird kind of don't hug me, I'm scared type of show, but really market it towards children. So that was a really cool one. There's I think it's 13 stories in there, and I'm almost done with it. So there's a lot of good ones. Highly recommend checking that out. And I am like 60 pages away from finishing Kill Radio by Lauren Bolger. This one just came out too, and I've been seeing a lot of good things about it, and I am really enjoying it. It's a neat idea about this like radio, little crystal radio that's sort of like a way to cross planes of existence and what it does to bring people out or bring things out. And then he also got like a guy who's a witch that can kind of is trying to stop this stuff. You got a mother who's just stuck in the middle of this trying to figure it all out, and a weird, not weird, but like a kind of straight-laced fisherman that's just there to help take care of this kid. Anyway, it's a blast. There's a lot of really neat things in there. I'm having a lot of fun with it. So I think that is a nice whirlwind of my life the last 2 weeks.
What about you?
Okay. I've actually been, because I'm in a writing funk at the moment, and I'm just trying to use whatever time to do anything but writing, even though I'm crippled with guilt by doing it. But this is something I have to deal with. And I decided to deal with it by watching a lot of shit and reading a lot of shit.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. I actually finished Michael Patrick Hicks's Consumption.
Oh,
that's fun.
It is a good one, and I love the fact that because I had recently watched the menu.
Yeah.
And it felt like a gorier version of the menu, and I loved it.
All right, I like this selling.
It's like a cosmic horror version of the menu, basically.
Yes.
And it was really interesting. It was really gory. It was really well written. There's also a little bit of smut in there, and I was like, Michael, what you got there?
Oh, Mike, we knew it.
But it was like it went in a completely different direction that I thought, like with the smut part I meant. And I was like, holy shit, okay, everyone needs to do a little bit of this in their stories. I really liked it. It's short, but it's like it packs a punch, has like a complete story within it, and it did also leave me like you had like you got like a sampler, but at the same time you could order like a whole entree of it, and you wouldn't be, you kind of would want a dessert of it as well. Like, what would be like the dessert of this story?
Yeah. Honestly, like, I know Mike used to be on this podcast, and he's not anymore, but I do want to say he's a fucking really great writer.
He really is.
And
yeah.
I wish more people would realize that.
Yes. But I mean, I listened to it on Audible, so the person who narrated it was also really good. So that
narration's great. Yeah.
So I definitely recommend that people check out the audiobook version of it. Then I also listened to the audiobook version of Waif by Samantha Kolesnik.
Nice.
Oh, that's a fucked up one. That one's really good.
It's so fucked up.
It's so like, fucked up.
It's just a roller coaster of things.
So fucked up.
It's like
This new book coming out next month.
I know. It's Ballast Station, right?
Yeah, with Brian. It's a Brian Smith. She wrote it with.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna have to get that book.
Me too.
But yeah, I love true crime. Like that was disturbing and heartbreaking at the same time. This one also is that. It's like you're like kind of like going through the life of the one girl who is like seems to be really unhappy with her marriage with this guy who is like this kind of a Chad kind of guy, and we kind of get the feeling, because I feel like at the beginning of the story she was kind of being like an unreliable narrator. You didn't really know if you could trust what she was saying or not, but at the same time you felt for her, because she, like the way she was describing her life, like how she felt abused. She was also she was really abused in her past when she was a kid. She kind of like watched how her family was just really dysfunctional. And then kind of like translates into her being who she is now. And then she's like, in order to try to escape that, she just wants to, like, she starts to fantasize about another guy she randomly meets in the grocery store. And she's like, kind of like thinks like that person is definitely going to be more perfect and more kind than her husband. And and it goes into like a really weird direction with that, and I'm like, you get really uncomfortable there. You're like, okay, honey, honey, you need help. You're like, no, don't. It's like, no, don't go there. And then it just goes into really, really weird direction with like the husband finding out about her fantasies, and he's like, yeah, what if I just turned into him? And you're like, wait, what now?
Wow. All right.
And it just goes into Frankenstein territory, and you're like, no. And she's like okay with it. She's like, yeah, let's just see how it goes. Maybe I'll like it.
Oh, wow.
And it just goes then into a entirely different direction. I had no idea they would go that. And I felt like I was reading like a story within a story.
Huh.
And like the end, like the second half of the story, because this is a novella, I felt like the second half of the story could have been like a fully fleshed out novel, basically. Like it could have, Samantha could have definitely gone a little bit further with that kind of this direction of the plot.
Did you read True Crime?
I did, yeah, I did.
I had the same thing too, where like she could have given us a lot more than she did.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I like the ending, and it got like I learned a lot of things about fetish porn, which is something I didn't know I needed to learn, but I did.
All right.
But it was
which fetish in particular?
Oh God. Don't answer that.
The mermaid porn, maybe.
Oh.
What?
It doesn't go into detail, but like there's this one girl who like went into this body modification to get like scales on her midriff.
Oh gosh, really?
Yeah, because there are people out there who fetishize about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it doesn't really go like deep into it, which is I'm kind of glad she didn't. I was like, oh no, don't go there, don't go too far, please. Because that probably would have been way too much disturbing for me. And I was like, I'm not in the right headspace to listen to this while I'm taking my walks.
Yeah, right.
But it's still really good. Like Samantha is a really great writer. Like what she writes, like especially like the traumatic parts of things, is just really, it gets to you. And it just, if you find it really heartbreaking and you really feel for the character. But in this kind of was a double-edged sword, because you weren't sure if you could trust her narrative or not, like the main character's narrative. But like I said, I definitely feel like the second half could have been like a whole completely different novel, like on its own, because there was so much more material you could have fleshed out more.
Nice.
And then
that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's not a negative thing at all.
Yeah.
That means you crave more from this person.
Right.
I want to read more of her stuff because she's seriously a fantastic author.
She really is. I then also finished Hallowed Oblivion by Katherine Silva.
Oh.
What's that?
That's really good. It's like it's also just a novelette. I had been meaning to read Catherine's stuff for a while now, and I decided just when I was in one of those writing funks, I was like, fuck it, grab my Kindle, like I'm gonna read stuff. And I just sat down and I was like, Hallowed Oblivion, yes. And then I just started reading it.
I should say I feel that pretty heavy.
Right?
It's like I can't write, I'm just gonna fucking read everything.
Right? It helps. It actually really does help, because sometimes you're really stuck. And if you just find the right kind of reading for her, it will get the juices going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one is it's a novelette, and it's set in her like Wild Oblivion series. Like she has the Wild Dark, I think, and then the Wild Fall is coming in August, I think. So this is kind of like a prequel of it, I think. Set in this universe that she has created, and this is about like basically a hike gone completely wrong.
Ooh.
And it's like hiking at night, especially on Halloween.
Oh, jeez.
And it's about this guy who like had plans to do stuff like Halloween stuff with his daughter, but had to cancel because there were some kids, like teenagers, who went up hiking in one of those mountains. I'm not familiar with where, like, in the States this is, so I can't be the best one to describe this. But it's a place in this universe, at least, that's known for like paranormal stuff.
Okay.
So like ghosts and stuff. So these kids were up hiking there because they wanted to summon a ghost. And then he gets the kind of notice that they're gone missing, and they haven't heard from them since last night, and they need to go see if they're okay. And when on the trek, you you discover that they summoned something horrifying. Either they summoned something horrifying, or just something was just waiting for these juicy teenagers to appear. And it just completely destroyed them. It's like it ripped them apart.
Nice.
I think there was just one survivor who the one survived, and she was the one who was gonna film all this. But I don't know. But in the story, we don't really get if she managed to get any footage or not, because it's not like the focus is not on them. It's on the guy who is doing the search and rescue operation.
Oh.
So you kind of get like an insight into like what kind of character that guy is, what he's dealing with, and also another guy who like a elderly man who joins them, and basically how they try to survive this monster that is up in the mountains. And Catherine writes really well.
Yeah.
Like I've read like you and I you two we've read our good share of stories, and then we can tell kind of like what's a good writing and what's not.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and her writing is really strong.
That's
So
good.
she has really good descriptions, and you could also like really imagine how perilous the track could be at night.
Yeah.
And like with the wind and everything, so it's never a good thing to hike at night, guys. Especially if it's fucking windy.
Yeah.
And she also managed to really like describe the monster. Like that fucking thing was creepy as fuck.
Nice. I like this.
So I definitely recommend checking that story out. I'm gonna see if I can get her 2 books that are available as well. I also have her because we did a swap. I have her vampire books, so I definitely want to check her books, her vampire books too.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
a real quick funny side story.
Yeah.
2-second side story. Her name, Kathy Silva, is my mom's name.
Really?
Yeah. So it always throws me off when I see her name on Twitter. I'm like, like you're used to seeing your mom's name somewhere, and like you have like a split second and be like, this is weird. But anyway, continue. I was like, it's so weird to see.
So funny. So yeah, that's the thing. What I've read, and I finished Owl House.
Yes.
I
heard Disney did that show really dirty.
They did.
They did.
My friend was complaining about it. I want to see it, but
like you just, and then I'll let you step in, but just you can really like, so like the 3rd season is just 3 long episodes.
Yeah.
And really that first of the 3 long episodes, you can really see like where that could have been a whole like more than 1 episode, and could have been longer than I think it was like 45-minute episode or something like that. It could have been a little bit longer, but you could see like what they wanted to do and how they had to trim back. But anyway.
I know. I wanted to know more about like Bellus's past.
Yeah.
Like they hinted at it at some point, and I was like, yes, give me more. I need more. Because you need to kind of like need this kind of backstory to truly understand his intentions,
Yes. And like that, it helps a lot with Hunter and like what and his whole story and what that means with Bellis. And like, yeah.
Yeah. But they definitely need more. And I'm just like, what? Like, Disney just can't stop beating around the bush, and can you just tell us the real reason why you didn't want to do it?
The only thing I can think of is they didn't think it was gonna be as big as it was.
I need to answer the door real quick. We'll be right back.
Yeah, that's all right. So like, Owl House, while we wait for the door opening, is a great show on Disney Plus. Our main character, Luce, she is like many of us, sort of a weirdo in this world. She loves fantasy. She's got this witch series that she loves, and she's kind of strange, and she doesn't really fit in. And she finds a way to this, the Burning Isles, and it's full of just weird people and creatures and things like that. And they're all sort of witches, and she becomes obsessed. And then there's a much bigger story revolving around what's happening there, and like forcing all the witches to be in just what they call houses, but like one track of magic. And so anyway, continue.
It was like what we got though in the end. It was magical.
Yes.
And I cried my eyes out after the end.
Oh yes. There's a number of parts where you just get really choked.
There's also just a scene, but it was in season 2. It wasn't in season 3. That really got to me. It was the when Luce is just trying to distract herself because of a certain event that she participated with her mom every year.
Yes.
And that was just soul crushing.
Oh,
but at the same time, it was just really sweet of Amity to be like, we can do it together here.
Yeah. Yes. Like, and definitely for listeners, if you haven't watched it, this is it's an awesome show to show kids because it's very open on everything. Luce and Amity, that, they're a gay couple together, and oh my goodness, why am I completely drawing a blank on the owl lady's name? What the heck? Yes, Ida is in a relationship with a trans person, and like you have it's very open and welcoming on and showing these kind of relationships, and like obviously some of the more interpersonal relationship challenges, not because this crazy society in the Burning Isles is pretty open to everything, but you have the interpersonal relationships aren't perfect, and so they show you that stuff, but it's really normalizing and cool for kids to see.
It's just this is normal. This is something we don't need to talk about, and if we do, we can do it in a civilized way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But
I feel like there's a lot of adults in this country that need to get that message.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah.
But
definitely.
So I'm glad you brought it up. That ending was we had a whole setup to watch the finale, and they did an amazing job. And yeah, it's a real bummer that it was shortened final season. So
I mean, I had to scour the internet in order to find episodes because they didn't release it on Disney Plus Europe.
Oh, they didn't? Oh, that's lame.
It is. And they and I Googled it, and there's you can watch the entire episode on Disney's YouTube channel. I'm like, awesome. Went there. I had to have the American VPN.
Oh.
And I was like, I need to watch this. And for some miracle, I found someone who had tape recorded and then put it on the website. I'm like, I'm watching all of this.
Yes.
Like I took like an entire day and I was just watching it, and then afterwards I just walked over to my husband and like, can I have a hack?
Yes. Oh,
He's like,
gosh.
what? He's like, what?
Please.
Like, yeah, it's such a good wholesome episode, and I just also loved Luz's message. Just to finish that up here, like the entire reason, kind of like why she stumbled upon the Boiling Isles or the Demon Realm, was because she didn't fit in at home.
Yeah.
But there she found herself, and that was basically her whole purpose, was just to be understood.
Yeah.
And I think that will resonate with a lot of people if they watch this.
Yes, definitely. It's like be yourself. I did like, again, I know we'll be wrapping up to talk about her story, but there's a really funny little like one shot like screen joke in the first episode. They're getting ready to send her to like a camp to be like a normal person. And like they do like a cut to the brochure, and it's like this kid is like trapped in this box, and he's like, I fit in the box now. And I just thought it was perfect.
Yeah, it was both perfect and horrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, there like I said, there were a lot of things that could have like fleshed out if Disney allowed them to do that. But apparently they were like, no, you don't fit in with our brand. And I'm like, what the fuck is your brand then?
Yeah.
I mean, we know what their brand is.
Yeah.
But then
I know.
But then why produce it then?
Because they're going to appear progressive on the surface.
Yeah.
And then once countries or states have an issue with that progressive value, such as viewing trans kids as regular kids, or just trying to show kids, hey, people different than you exist, and that's okay, somehow have issues with it. And then Disney backpedals. And like, oh, money more than we like values. So the money always wins. Yeah,
which just sucks.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, okay, I don't like saying this because I feel it gives people a very bad image of me. But I have been okay, I know I saw Ant-Man, but that was for a date. I've been boycotting the MCU because of the fake progressiveness that's so apparent in the Marvel movies these days. It really bothers me, like on an extreme level.
Yeah.
And so, like, for instance, like if you look at the TV shows, right? Like Moon Knight, I think we can all agree Moon Knight was a fun TV show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good time Moon Knight. But Moon Knight pisses me off. Because Moon Knight was the one super explicitly Jewish superhero, and Disney just didn't do anything with it. But then we get Miss Marvel, who they did a little bit more with her being Muslim, but they still didn't do a lot. But they did more with her than they did with Moon Knight. And I'm sitting here, someone who wants to celebrate diversity of all people and think it's important to have all these different stories be told. And I'm just like, why are you giving what appears to be one more importance over the other one when they should both be equally important?
Yeah.
And that kind of led me to not support Marvel anymore. Like, legit, if they do the Fantastic Four movie and they remove Ben Grimm's Judaism, I'm canceling my Disney Plus, and I'm never giving Disney another penny of my money.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a lie, because I have Hulu. Fuck! I'm not Hulu. God damn it. Anyway, but yeah, that's my whole thing, is like, I feel that all these stories are important to tell, and I think we do a disservice when we don't tell these stories properly.
Yeah, definitely.
But Again, I didn't mean to bring this down. It was just
It's okay.
it was just
It's
on
fair.
my
Yeah.
because I
No,
feel
it's
like
crazy.
stuff like Owl House, it talks about important things. Steven Universe, that was Disney, right?
No, that's Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
Gravity Falls was Disney.
Gravity
Disney.
Falls was Disney.
Yeah. Yes.
Gravity Falls, yeah, Gravity Falls touched on some important stuff too. And again, they also cut Gravity Falls short. They censored stuff with Gravity Falls.
Yeah.
So it's like they pretend to be progressive.
Mm-hmm.
They pretend to have those values. And I would just like to see them actually put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry for digressing that. I just
okay.
needed to say something. Because my whole thing is like when I called out the Marvel or like Moon Knight stuff, it makes me feel like I'm being kind of like an uppity Jew, where it's like,
No,
look,
it's
it's
fair.
good enough for the Jewish person, but like Marvel wouldn't exist without Jewish people.
Exactly.
Like half the shit wouldn't exist without Jewish people.
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
it's like you gotta treat everybody with the respect and every group with the respect that they deserve.
Yeah. It's
And speaking of respect, you know what we also should respect?
Yes, I'm waiting.
Witches.
that
That was so fucking bad.
Oh, that was great. Was that what this story's about?
Oh, kind of. It's about a house
Yeah.
that digests people that dealt with witchcraft a little bit. But
No, it is. You're fair. You're right.
I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. I mean, the house itself eats people.
Yes,
But would the house exist if not for witches?
this is true. It
So-
probably would not.
Just saying. I'm just saying. It's an important detail that I think we're overlooking. But I think it's time we go into a root canticle, which
Yes.
I think might be worse than a root canal. Just gonna put
I-
that up there too.
Yeah. I mean, like being digested. Yeah, I feel like, and it feels like it takes some time. Like I'm not sure on the timing of our protagonist's time in the house before it happens. So yeah.
I feel once you go past the licking doorknob, you're kind of
Yeah,
Your
you're kind of in
things-
trouble. Like thinking about that because this is a short enough story where I feel like we're not really going to be spoiling too much. But like us, I guess, as the reader, we're like going in to rob this house, right? And like right from the start, if you have a licking doorknob, would you, as a thief, be like, "This is cool. I'm gonna just keep walking."
yes.
It's like I am surprised that like it did not instantly turn us around.
Yeah. No, we went right on inside.
I even like I guess like even before the licking doorknob, there's a porch balustrade of teeth.
Yeah.
If I saw this teeth just like there, and like as we get further into the story, they're not like dead teeth that somebody glued to this thing. This is like living teeth. I don't know. Can
They're
teeth
milk
be
teeth.
alive? Yeah. But like they're there. And like I would touch it and be like, okay, whatever. I don't know. As a thief that I'm stealing, like gold stuff. It wouldn't be worth it.
So,
Just-
what did you think you would find?
What would be worth going through like gooey mouth stuff to steal?
I don't know. I kind of felt like it wasn't like, for me, it didn't feel like that guy was a thief, or like, us as putting as a person that the house is speaking to. I felt more like this could have been like an urban exploration.
I thought that too, but I feel like the house calls them out as a thief.
I mean,
I think the house
could.
is the intruder as a thief.
That's what that's what I thought. It's like Avery is a thief because he's going to take something of hers. And I mean, who is not to say that urban explorers don't take a little things as a memento?
This is very true.
Yeah. So for me, I felt like this is an urban exploration who's probably going to tape it on YouTube, and seeing these kind of like teeth for banisters, you probably would be really weirded out, but at the same time, like, this is good for the clout.
Yeah.
Gotta get the YouTube followers up, smash that like button.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I feel like that actually I like that idea better than being like, because then she have like us, don't we have like a bag with like, I just imagine like a money symbol bag that we're trying to put stuff in. But anyway, that's so small part of the story. But it's a living house. This was I like this concept a lot. It again, you do question like, why did I go into the basement when even past all this stuff, that like the living room and the dining room and everything, it looks like a living house. There's no like surprise, gotcha, you're in the basement and the basement's covered in stuff. It's like, no, this description is literally the table has plates on it that like pump up and down like ventricles.
Mm-hmm.
So wacky. I really did enjoy, like, this is it's a weird one. There's a lot of weird stuff happening, and like when you get to and no pun intended, heart of the story is really interesting, but like I just love this wacky description of a living house.
Yeah. And it like we probably mentioned that we had to maybe read this a couple of times just to kind of get to the grit of the matter.
Yeah.
Or if I'm going to continue bouncing on your heart pun into the heart of the matter.
Yes. Let's do it.
It's like we get like, it's interesting because we get kind of like a story within a story in this.
Yeah.
And at one point it kind of all just starts to melt in together, and you start wondering like, is it truly the house that is telling the story, or is it the person who merged with the house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when we get kind of near the end and we get that reveal of kind of who it is, that was my question too. I was like, wait, I kind of had a feeling that it was this person, and we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, that's a good question. Like, because the house was already there when she got in there, right?
Yeah, for me, I feel like it was like how I read it. I think the house was already there.
Yeah,
it was probably just like a bare minimum of a house. It was like maybe just the small construct of it, but that person made it as it is today.
Yeah,
it's like it was kind of like the nutrition for the house.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Yeah.
You know how you have to put up, a lot of fertilizer for the plants to grow and stuff?
Yeah.
That person was that for the house, and for many others who decided to stumble upon the house.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. So I guess like just to get to the meat of the story, like
get to the bones of the story.
Get to the bones.
Go into the cartilages.
Dig through the flesh and get to the chewy insides.
Get the sinew out of those bones.
Yes. It's a story about a witch and her girlfriend. Like that's kind of what I got like out of this, is like, you kind of have this idea because again, the house is telling us, I'm telling you, listener, the house is telling us this story and describing what this us went through. But then also, like Vitlame, like you were saying, it's a story within a story. It's about like she was there was a witch, and now again, because we had to read this multiple times, but I feel like this witch at one point lays down into the ground, and then that's kind of house builds around this. But then the person sort of telling this story, I think the girlfriend of the witch, like climbs, or did she climb out of the house? So, like, all I know is she like climbed out of something to go find this house, or maybe it's vice versa. Maybe she was buried.
I think you can just draw both conclusions to it. Like, it depends, I think, how you're viewing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on your perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Because, like, I thought I had this. I was like, after I read it, I'm like, oh, I got this. But, like, literally right now describing it, I'm like, oh, wait, no, I don't have this. Oh, crap.
Because you can see here, like, it's like almost near the end of it. You see, like, there's this passage here that says, not even a name, but when she curled into the hollow in the stone, she remembered the shape of the body that made this house, and it remembered her.
So the shape is the witch, right?
I would think so, yeah.
Okay, yes. All right, there we go. Cool. Because, like, the way the story is told, like, at first you don't realize, like, who is who, specifically who's speaking, and, like, again, there's a witch, there's another lady, the witch died, but then the lady was also buried under something and finally climbed out years later and couldn't find the witch, but felt the power of this house. Mm-hmm. And that's who laid in there. Okay, there we go. It's coming together now. Yeah. So, like, but it kind of, like, the way this story just sort of, like, melds and bounces between these stories and what's currently happening. And I don't want to say this is a horrible word choice, and I know it's a horrible word choice, but, like, the descriptions of the I won't get us canceled, but the way, like, the descriptions of the house and everything like that, like, and this is the bad word choice, distracts, but maybe it's more like a magician and, like, sleight of hand. So you're really focused on these. Yeah, it's
a red herring. The
red herring.
A red herring.
Mm-hmm.
They're meant to make us think something else than what's really going on in the story.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But don't you find the beauty in it? Because while she's doing that, she is consuming you.
Yes.
Yes. Well, and exactly. That's, like, where the bad word choice of distract is coming in, because I'm like, I am just digging on and loving every second of this description of the house that kind of is interjected in between, that I just, those sentences and those descriptions are just perfect. And you're like, you can see the inside of this house. And so I'm paying attention to that, where really the story is kind of happening. It's like, oh, over here, you looked in the wrong hand. And so that's where, like, it's what's happening is I'm so focused on this that now I'm, trying to describe it. I'm like, but wait, who was this and who was that?
Yeah,
so
that's you notice it in between some of the passages. Like, you are kind of, like, trying to wriggle yourself out of this kind of, like, spellbound possession, basically, from the story, and you see it in the past, like here, like this is again closer to the end. Like, you, as I've said, my jaws are for show, but this entire house is a mouth, little thief. You've done the swallowing for us, crawling your way into an open esophagus. Now hush. The burning sensation will pass as your lungs adjust to the moss. A body will accommodate even its own impending end. See, this is a part where you are, like, as that person, you're just kind of almost shaking yourself out of the spell.
Yes.
And the house is like, shh, it's almost over now. Just let it be.
Which is perfect, because, like you said, you're kind of at the end of the book, so you're like, story. So you're almost done, but oh, by the way, you're getting digested and going to be used for something bigger.
The roots needs watering, like she said.
So it's like this perfect, and I feel like at some point in here they talk about other people, because it's, it's that, and maybe I can imagine what is happening? There we go. And Natasha thinking of the like that creepy house in the neighborhood or that creepy house in town. And that's kind of what this is. So I feel like I think at a couple points in this, she mentions like other people kind of looking at it and coming in and everything like that. So it feels like this is them getting stronger by like kind of teasing people to have the courage to check out that creepy house in the neighborhood and then, oh, by the way, you're making the witch and the witch's friend like this super strong, powerful monster.
I do appreciate the end, paragraph of the story.
I was going to put to that one, actually.
Yeah, it's really good. Do you want me to read it?
You can read it.
Okay. So the end paragraph of the story is just, it packs a punch. Look if you can how your eyes are each sprouting a beak, fletching a pair of wings. Taste if you can all the trace metals you have sweated into these walls. Are you here because you've squandered your life? None of it will be wasted now. Are you here because life has squandered you? She and I will be grateful for every mineral-rich mouthful. Ah, little thief, do you imagine with the final sparks of a liquefying cerebral cortex that you're being drafted into some glorious war? Nothing like that. War's of heaven's business. She and I, we were merely human. It's just so good.
So good.
It's like basically like just the like this is the end, like there's a little seconds of your life being drained. It's just like, do you think it was for some grand, glorious purpose? Fuck that. No, you're just fertilizer.
Yes.
You're fuel.
And like I love that because there's these little sentences every once in a while talking about like devil in the details and God and all of these like little comments that are kind of pointing out, because again, it's like this story within a story, but then there's also this other story of like, are the two of them actually trying to do something different, bigger, growing into this just thing, and and I'm wishing I could find some of these lines just to kind of highlight some of this stuff, because it does make you think that they do have like this sort of grander plan, but it is not against heaven and hell. It's just against earth and the people there. And I again, probably because of what they did to the witch and to the witch's girlfriend. And so like, I think this is, I love it because there is so much. And again, you're so focused on one thing that you're missing or subliminally getting these other things happening. It's super cool.
The stories are really great at redirection.
Yes.
Getting your attention to other places to kind of hide what's really happening. The author does a great job with diverting our own attention as readers.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Every time I am out of a story, I'm like, oh, I gotta get a story for us to discuss. Nightmare Magazine has yet to let us down.
No, they have not.
Like, and this is just me go to our audience, like, support Nightmare Magazine. Like, they're doing awesome stuff.
They are, yes. And they're producing, like, really, really good stories.
Yeah.
From really great writers, especially, like, new-to-me writers. I'm experiencing so many great authors just from reading these short stories, and I just love it.
Me too. That's kind of why I'm choosing them. Is like, I want us, like, there's some stuff I want us to discuss, obviously, but I want us to also look at authors who we might not be familiar with and kind of get some new people on the scene.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, I should say new to us.
Yeah, that's fair.
I should specify. But, like, stuff like The Dark, Nightmare Magazine, these are things that I think are very good for us as horror readers and horror writers. And they also have a lot of diversity. Like, they publish authors from all different backgrounds. They do a really great job with the stories that they choose. Like, I highly recommend supporting them.
Yes,
Mhm,
definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But no, this was awesome. I'll make sure to add it to the story notes so listeners, you can read it. I don't think we spoiled too much of it, which was
No, it's a hard story to spoil because it's all in second person.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like the main spoiler is just the history of the house.
Yeah.
Like, if you're an astute reader, you're going to realize that you're being digested by like
Yeah.
time you finish the second paragraph.
Yeah.
So like it's a pretty straightforward story, but what makes it more interesting is the prose. I think it's very well written,
Yes.
very interesting. It has a fantastic backstory, and yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, definitely. This is one of
So
those ones like if you know, as a short story, she used that power of a short story to like just perfect. It's just a quick jump you in, and like she puts a lot in there, but she doesn't waste anything. You know, we've talked about this before with Nightmare. They tell you the word count, and this is under 3,000 words, but like each word counts for something for the story, and just this is like a great, if you're looking what can I do with a short story as a writer, this is like a good example of like, hey, this is what you can do in just a short window. So yeah, I loved it a bunch.
Perfect. And Vitlame, where can listeners get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me on Twitter at VitlameS.
And Matt, where can listeners get in touch with you?
I am also on Twitter at BradenbergDM.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Rudy53088. And be sure to give Abyss a follow. We've been in the game for how many years, Matt? Is it like 4 years at this point? And we're still going strong. We don't count seasons. We just count episodes. And we're here, baby. We're doing our thing. We're doing our thing. We're here for the genre. Check us out. Follow us. Give us reviews. Because you know what? Some podcasts go down. Abyss just expands. This is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.